Michael B. Jordan stepped through the automatic doors of the private terminal, his sleek carry-on rolling behind him. The terminal buzzed with quiet opulence, clean marble floors, subtle gold accents, polished staff behind minimalist counters. He wore a dark, tailored jacket and shades, the kind of calm confidence that didn't need to announce itself. His assistant had secured the ticket, first class, private section, seat 1A. He didn't usually enjoy the perks, but this time he decided to fly solo, relax before a few exhausting press appearances. The boarding gate was open. A line of sharply dressed passengers moved toward the aircraft. Michael joined them, nodding politely as he stepped forward. The boarding agent scanned his digital pass, glanced at the name, then nodded. "All set. Sir, have a great flight." He gave a short smile and walked the tunnel to the jet bridge. Just before he entered the plane, a slim, blonde stewardess stepped out from the aircraft door, almost blocking his path. Her uniform was crisp, her expression unreadable. "Excuse me, sir," she said, not moving. Michael removed his shades. "Yeah. I'm sorry, but you can't come in here." He blinked, assuming there had been a mistake. "What?" "This section is not available for you." She didn't lower her voice. The line behind him paused. A few glances flicked their way. "I have seat 1A," Michael replied calmly. "VIP class. Is there a problem?" She looked at the screen in her hand, then back at him with a strained smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We've had an issue with this ticket. I'll need you to step aside." "What kind of issue?" he asked, voice low measured. "I just boarded normally. My pass was accepted. Sir, I'm asking you to wait over there, please." She gestured toward a corner near the wall, not answering the question. "Look, I'm just trying to get to my seat." He was still calm, but the confusion in his face was obvious now. She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice, but still sharp. "I don't care who you are. We don't transport people like you up here." The silence that followed felt like a vacuum. Time stalled. Michael stared at her. "Excuse me." "You heard me." She smiled, tight, insincere. "Now please step away before this becomes unpleasant." He blinked slowly, trying to process the sentence, unsure if he had misheard. "You don't transport people like me," he repeated, each word cutting more than the last. "You need to explain what you mean by that." Her voice dropped further, almost to a whisper. "I don't want to see people like you up here. You don't belong." The world narrowed. The hallway, the plane behind her, the glances from the other passengers, none of it mattered for a second. Michael's jaw tensed, the cool in his eyes hardening. "So this is about me being black," he said plainly, voice barely audible. She tilted her head slightly, as if pretending not to hear, but the truth had already fallen between them. "I'm asking you one last time," she said. "Walk away, or I'll have security escort you." A second passed. Then another. Michael stared at her, like she was something ancient and broken. "You're going to regret this," he said quietly. "You have no idea what you've just done." She turned and clicked her heels back into the plane. The door shut behind her. Michael remained where he stood, hand still loosely holding his boarding pass. Around him, the corridor remained silent, as if the air itself was deciding what would happen next. Michael stood frozen, disbelief tightening in his chest. The corridor behind him buzzed faintly with the quiet murmurs of other passengers, but in his ears there was only static, an unreal stillness, as he tried to process what had just happened. He looked down at the boarding pass in his hand again, confirming the seat, the class, the flight number. Everything was correct. None of it mattered. Slowly, he stepped toward the aircraft door again, The stewardess appeared once more, stepping out as though she had been watching and waiting. "Sir, I told you already. You need to leave." Michael narrowed his eyes, trying to keep his voice even. "Tell me why. I need you to say it." She tilted her head with exaggerated patience, lips tightening. "We do not transport black passengers in this cabin." Her tone was crisp, practiced, almost clinical. Michael blinked, a cold weight sinking into his chest. "You're saying that out loud? Like that?" His voice cracked just slightly. "Is that the airline's policy, or just yours?" The stewardess shrugged. "It's the way things are handled here. I don't make the rules, but I do enforce them." She looked down at the device in her hand, tapping something as though dismissing his existence. Michael took a step forward. "Look at me. Look me in the eye and say it again. You don't transport black passengers." She looked up at him now, expression bland. "Correct. People like you cause disruption. You draw attention. It makes others uncomfortable." The bile rose in his throat. "You're unbelievable," he muttered. "What the hell kind of twisted logic is that?" "Please don't raise your voice," she said sharply. "We are trained to maintain order. I'm going to ask you to leave now, or security will be notified." Michael inhaled through his nose, fists clenched at his sides. "Why are you doing this? What do you get out of it?" His voice was almost pleading now, not from weakness, but from the sheer strangeness of hearing this kind of naked hate hurled at him in daylight, in public, with no attempt at disguise. The stewardess leaned slightly closer. "Because I don't want to see people like you sitting where you don't belong," she said, her voice low but razor sharp. "It ruins the atmosphere. You bring a certain energy, and I don't like it." Michael stared at her for a moment longer, the silence between them growing heavier. Then he let out a hollow laugh, shaking his head slowly. "You really believe that, don't you?" She didn't answer. She simply raised her hand, signaling a nearby ground attendant. "Escort this man out of the terminal, please. He's refusing to cooperate." The attendant hesitated for a second, eyes flicking to Michael's face, recognizing him. But before he could act, the stewardess snapped again. Now, 2 more staff appeared near the entrance, moving in carefully, uncertainly. Michael stood firm. "I paid for my ticket. I passed security. I was cleared. This is illegal." "You were cleared by mistake," she said. "And if you don't leave this area immediately, we will have you removed." Michael exhaled slowly. He looked at the security personnel, then back at the stewardess. "You'll regret this. Every word you said. Every choice you made right now. This is going to follow you." She smiled faintly. "We'll see about that." One of the guards stepped closer, clearly uncomfortable. "Sir, maybe we can sort this out inside the terminal." Michael raised a hand. "I'm not here to argue with you. Just do what you're told." He handed the guard his boarding pass. The guard took it, unsure what to do with it. The stewardess turned on her heel and returned to the aircraft. Michael let himself be guided slowly away, never looking back, his mind already spinning. Not with rage, not with humiliation, but with clarity, the way she had said those words, like he was beneath notice, like his humanity didn't register, burned into him. She had spoken with the confidence of someone who had done this before, like she believed nothing would happen, like she would never be held accountable. That certainty she had. It gave her power, and now it gave him purpose. The plane had already closed its doors. Passengers settled into their seats, overhead compartments latched, ambient music humming faintly from hidden speakers. The stewardess walked the aisle with calm precision, checking seatbelts, nodding politely to faces that barely looked up. Outside, dusk had begun to fall, washing the tarmac in a cool gray light. The captain's voice came over the intercom, welcoming everyone aboard, instructing for final preparations, when suddenly there was a sharp knock on the cockpit door. A pause, then a quiet voice over the crew's internal system. Hold position. Do not initiate taxi. New orders incoming. Confusion stirred in the cockpit. The pilot glanced at the co-pilot, then switched frequencies. Moments later, another knock, this time on the front cabin door. The stewardess frowned, stepped quickly to the door, and cracked it open, expecting a late luggage update or mechanical delay. Instead, standing there were two uniformed airport security officers. Between them stood Michael B. Jordan. Calm, silent, eyes fixed directly on her. "We need to speak to the lead stewardess," one of the guards said. The passengers in the front rows stirred, glancing up. The air inside the plane shifted, pressure building, a storm about to break. "That's me," she said carefully, eyes flicking to Michael, then back to the guards. "Is there a problem?" The taller officer spoke. "You're being removed from this flight immediately. Please gather your things." "What?" Her voice cracked. "There must be some mistake. This is outrageous." "I've done nothing wrong, ma'am." The other officer cut in, calm but firm. "This decision has been made by airline management in response to a verified discrimination report. You are to leave the aircraft now." The passengers around them stiffened. A few gasps. Someone pulled out their phone. "Wait, I didn't mean anything," she said quickly, her voice suddenly soft, almost childlike. He misunderstood. "I wasn't trying to offend anyone. Please, let's talk about this." Not in front of the passengers. But Michael just stood there, silent, watching. Not angry, not smug, just watching. "I'd like to issue an apology," she said now, facing him directly. "Really, I didn't mean it. I had a bad day. Stress. You know how things get." She reached toward him slightly, as if that would make it human again. But he didn't move. "Please," she said again, quieter. "You don't need to do this. I could lose everything." One of the guards stepped forward. "Mang." Her face tightened, lips quivering as she looked around, seeing no support. No one stood up. No one said a word. Slowly, she turned and began gathering her items from the galley. As she walked down the aisle with the guards beside her, the cabin remained eerily quiet, eyes following her, phones recording, whispers rising like wind in dry leaves. As she reached the door, she stopped one last time and looked at Michael. "I'm sorry," she said, voice brittle. "Please believe me." He didn't reply. She stepped off the plane. The door closed behind her with a mechanical hiss. Moments later, another stewardess entered the cabin, a woman in her early 40s. Warm smile, confident posture, presence full of grace. She nodded to the flight crew, whispered something to the pilot, then addressed the cabin. "Good evening, everyone. Apologies for the delay. Thank you for your patience. We're ready to depart shortly." She moved through the cabin efficiently, engaging passengers with kindness, making sure everyone was at ease. When she reached Michael's seat, she stopped. "Mr. Jordan, welcome aboard," she said softly, her smile genuine. "If there's anything you need, anything at all, please don't hesitate." He nodded once, grateful. For the first time that day, something in his chest loosened. The plane rolled forward onto the runway. No more tension, no more hatred and whispers. Just silence, metal wings, and the night sky stretching open. She would never work another flight. and in her place stood someone who knew what dignity meant.